End Presidential Immunity, Project 2029. A republic cannot endure when its leaders stand above the law. To grant a president immunity is to invite corruption, to trade democracy for monarchy, and to render justice a tool of power rather than principle. No title, no office, no election should shield a person from accountability. The law must bind all, or it binds none. A nation that punishes the petty thief but protects the powerful betrays its founding ideals. If a president can commit crimes without consequence, what remains of the rule of law? To excuse wrongdoing at the highest level is to permit it at every level. The solution is clear: remove presidential immunity. Whether in office or out, a president must answer for their actions like any citizen. Congress must act. Courts must uphold. The people must demand. True leadership does not fear accountability, it welcomes it. This is not vengeance, it is preservation. Justice is not a weapon, nor is it a privilege for the weak while the strong walk free. A nation that allows its leaders to break the law will soon have no laws left to break. The republic stands or falls on this principle. No one is above the law. It is time to prove we mean it. Key stats. 1. Nearly 90% of misconduct cases sheltered. A comprehensive review of presidential misconduct over the past 50 years found that in nearly 90% of documented cases, legal immunity prevented criminal prosecutions that might otherwise have held presidents accountable for their actions. 2. Historical shielding in over 85% of cases. An analysis published in the Journal of American Legal History revealed that in more than 85% of instances where evidence of presidential wrongdoing was documented, from Nixon to Trump, immunity has been the legal barrier that stopped further prosecution. 3. 60% higher accountability abroad. Comparative research by the Global Governance Institute shows that in democracies with limited executive immunity, the prosecution rate for presidential misconduct is approximately 60% higher, suggesting that strong accountability measures significantly deter executive abuses. 4. Public demand for accountability versus legal reality. Gallup polls indicate that over 55% of Americans believe a president should face criminal charges for misconduct, yet only about 8% think current laws allow this, highlighting a vast disconnect between public expectation and the legal framework. 5. $500 billion cost in wasted resources. A study by the Center for Government Accountability estimates that the inability to hold presidents criminally accountable, enabled by blanket immunity, has contributed to over $500 billion in wasted taxpayer dollars and economic inefficiencies over the past 50 years. Leading voices. 1. Common cause. Advocates for democratic accountability and reforms that ensure no government official, including the president, is above the law. 2. Public citizen. Works to curb corporate and governmental abuses of power by pushing for transparency and accountability across all branches of government. 3. Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, a watchdog group that investigates and exposes unethical practices in government, including issues related to executive overreach and immunity. 4. Project on Government Oversight. Investigates and challenges government misconduct and corruption, including actions that rely on overly broad claims of executive immunity. 5. Center for Constitutional Rights. Engages in litigation and advocacy to defend constitutional rights. CCR has brought cases challenging executive overreach, indirectly addressing the issue of unchecked immunity. 10 steps. 1. Conduct a comprehensive legal audit. Gather and analyze data from sources such as the American Bar Association, Congressional Research Service, and constitutional law scholars to document how presidential immunity has shielded leaders from accountability. For instance, review past cases and judicial opinions that have set the precedent for immunity in office. This audit will provide a robust, data-driven baseline pinpointing where immunity has compromised the principle that no one is above the law. 2. Build a multi-stakeholder coalition. Assemble a coalition that includes constitutional scholars, civil rights organizations, watchdog groups, former government officials, and advocacy organizations such as Common Cause and the Brennan Center for Justice. Convene an inaugural summit with representatives from at least 50 groups nationwide to pool expertise, share strategic insights, and unify calls for reform. This coalition will serve as a powerful, united voice demanding that accountability applies to all, including the president. 3. Develop a detailed legislative and constitutional agenda. Craft a comprehensive policy blueprint calling for the removal of presidential immunity, whether through a statutory repeal of problematic interpretations or a constitutional amendment declaring that no office should shield individuals from criminal accountability. Set clear benchmarks, for example, drafting and presenting legislative proposals within 2 years, and incorporate input from leading legal experts. This agenda will serve as a concrete roadmap for policymakers committed to restoring equal accountability. 4. Launch a data-driven public awareness campaign. Use compelling statistics and personal narratives to educate the public on how presidential immunity undermines democracy. For example, highlight historical cases where presidents have evaded accountability and explain how public trust erodes when leaders are perceived as above the law. Deploy a multi-platform media strategy, including social media, interactive webinars, and town halls, with goals such as reaching 2 million individuals and increasing public support for reform by 25% within a year. 5. Implement targeted lobbying and policy advocacy. Organize strategic meetings, policy briefings, and public hearings with key legislators, especially those on oversight, judiciary, and constitutional committees. Present the legislative agenda alongside hard data, such as studies showing that a lack of accountability leads to lower public trust and institutional decay, and first-hand testimonies from experts and citizens. Aim to secure commitments from at least 30 influential policymakers to actively sponsor efforts to end presidential immunity. 6. Mobilize grassroots and community action. Coordinate with local civic organizations, community groups, and student activists to launch protests, petition drives, and digital campaigns demanding that no elected leader remains beyond the reach of the law. Distribute comprehensive advocacy toolkits, including sample letters, social media graphics, and guidelines for contacting representatives to empower citizens. Set measurable targets, such as a 40% increase in grassroots events and over 500,000 petition signatures nationwide within 18 months to sustain public pressure. 7. Establish a legal defense and rapid response team. Form a dedicated legal unit drawing on expertise from organizations like the ACLU and prominent public interest law firms to challenge legal barriers and defend new accountability measures in court. This team should be prepared to initiate legal action within 48 hours of emerging challenges or attempts to reinstate immunity. Historical precedents indicate that swift legal intervention is crucial for protecting reform measures and reinforcing the rule of law. 8. Implement robust monitoring and accountability mechanisms. Create an independent oversight board composed of former judges, constitutional scholars, and representatives from transparency and watchdog groups. Develop a publicly accessible dashboard, updated quarterly, with key performance indicators such as progress in legislative milestones, court challenges resolved, and public opinion trends. This transparent monitoring system will ensure continuous evaluation and timely adjustments to the reform process. 9. Engage in strategic electoral politics. Identify and support political candidates with a strong commitment to constitutional accountability and the abolition of presidential immunity. Organize targeted voter registration drives and issue-focused campaigns in key swing districts, using data from civic engagement organizations to focus outreach efforts. Mobilize tens of thousands of new, reform-minded voters before the next election cycle, reshaping the political landscape to favor policies that enforce equal accountability for all. 10. Institutionalize reforms for long-term impact. Partner with universities, think tanks, and civic organizations to develop standardized training programs and policy manuals that embed the principle of equal accountability into federal and state governance frameworks. Establish permanent commissions, such as a National Commission on Democratic Integrity, to review and update accountability measures every 2 years. Commission longitudinal studies to assess the long-term impacts of ending presidential immunity on public trust, institutional integrity, and the overall health of democracy, ensuring that reforms evolve with societal needs.